happening out there, guys? We are coming at you today from Sanford, Florida. We're out in front of the beautiful Bel Air Apartments here, and I'm with my good friend here, Mr. Dan Hench. And Dan, I would label you many things, but I think the one thing I would say that I know you most for is being what? A systems engineer, I guess?
I would say that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that would probably be a good, among other things.
Among other things, for sure.
Right.
So Dan and I have known each other for a few years, quite a few years. We live in Winter Park, but do work all over the country. Dan started with my knowledge and introduction to him as a lighting specialist, a lighting expert when it comes to lighting up buildings, lighting up interiors, exteriors, high-end design, everything from restaurants, hotels, hospitality interiors, all the way through to residential. And obviously we've met up and started to talk because with all the apartment business I'm doing, I think there's some things that we can do together. Another thing that Dan has also become an expert on, and something that I'm very much interested in because of all the life and time that I spend dealing with apartments, is technology, and in particular cell phone technology.
Correct.
Yeah. So today's building codes, as you know, they've come a long way in the way that we've set up the building codes to protect buildings, to provide better energy efficiency. That's great, and it makes for a very, very economical and a very efficient home. However, certain things like low E on the outside of the windows and different foil roofs will do things like
you have a cell phone signal outside, but those signals don't like to go through the low E windows. As a matter of fact, they bounce off and reflect. Same thing with the foil insulation that's in the roof.
Yeah.
So you've got a great signal outside, but when you go inside the building, signal drops off and you can't make phone calls. And then what compounds that even worse is in newer apartment complexes in denser locations,
Yes.
where the buildings are right next to one another. Then you've got multiple layers of the signal not being able to penetrate any of that.
Yeah.
And when you're inside the building, you can't make a phone call.
And that's terrible, right? Because who has a landline today? Do you have a landline? I don't have a landline.
Or text or data, basically everything.
Text, data. Some people are even getting away from using standard cable service, and they're using their phone as a hotspot to do work or to stream and do other things. And when you don't have cell signal inside of the apartment, that's pretty annoying. And for us in the apartment business, that's going to lead to low resident retention. However, the one thing that is worse is if you're somebody that's having an emergency.
Correct. Safety concerns.
Safety concerns, 911, and you can't reach the authorities when there's a problem, that becomes a legitimate concern. And I think there's pretty good validity in forecasting the fact that there's going to be some mandates put in place soon that will enforce doing some sort of cell phone boosting technology. So Dan and I are going to talk to you a little bit about that today. We're going to show you how some of this technology works as far as how you look at a building and what you do to troubleshoot it and see what we could do to make a building that's not getting good cell phone service get good cell phone service inside of the apartments. And so head along with us. We're going to head inside and we're going to check this place out, and we're going to see what's going on here at Bel Air Apartments. So Dan, how do we start? Where do we start with figuring all this out?
So the first step in the process is to get data to figure out what kind of cell signal level we have, and we have a very unique tool. It's a cell phone receiver that receives all carriers, all channels, all frequencies.
Okay.
And basically it talks to an app on our phone, and we take a reading at ground level.
Okay.
Where we are, we're standing out in front of the building, and that's our reference signal level to see what kind of signal we're getting from start, and see if it's good, bad, because if we have no signal, then we've got nothing to work with at all, and we have to figure out how to solve that. So the system's actually quite straightforward. It has what's called a donor antenna that's mounted on the outside of the building, and it's usually placed in an optimal position to receive best signal. And that signal is going to be sent to an amplifier, and the amplifier is going to send its signal to antennas inside the building that basically retransmit the cell signal. And the system is what's called bidirectional, which means it send signals both ways.
Okay.
So when you're inside the building, you're getting the signal from outside, but also when your phone is transmitting back out to the cell tower, it's going in the other direction from the indoor antenna through the amplifier to the outdoor antenna.
Important, right?
Okay.
So it's not just receiving the signal, it's transmitting the signal back out to the satellites as well. Got it.
And the other thing we want to make sure of is that the donor antenna is mounted in the optimal location.
Sure.
So, because we might not have great signal level at ground level, but if we can get the antenna up higher and then we can aim it in a different direction towards the cell phone towers, we can improve the signal level that we're going to amplify.
Okay.
If we have no signal level to amplify, then we're going to get nothing.
Exactly. That makes a lot of sense. So I know we're gonna have a ladder and we can't fly, so I don't think we're gonna get on the roof today, but I have an idea for you.
Yeah.
Why don't we put this little baby up on top of Bernadine and see what she can do for
Okay,
us.
great. So for our first reading, we're just going to take a reading here in the parking lot and see what kind of cell phone level, cell signal level we have here. So it's quite a simple process. All I do is I launch the application to get started here, and the app connects with the cell phone receiver. And when I run the app, it runs a scan. And after I've run the scan, what's going to happen is I'm going to get, first and foremost, a map that actually plots where all the cell phone towers are, so we can actually see surrounding us what direction the cell phone towers are.
Okay.
Just very useful.
Yeah.
And then the next thing I get is I get cell phone signals for all the carriers.
That's amazing.
And you'll notice that there's duplicates, so you'll see Verizon here many times, AT&T here many times, T-Mobile here many times, because it's showing the signal level from each cell phone tower.
Great.
And then the last step of the process is we export all this.
Yeah.
And it's in a spreadsheet. And so now when the engineers at the factory have all the signal levels, they know what we're starting with and how much what's called gain is available in the system, then we can pick the right antenna location, the right antennas, the right amplifiers.
Oh, great. So let's do this. Let's take this transmitter inside now. We can show people what we're going to do once we get inside of the apartment. Sounds good.
So all we've done is we've just set it inside somewhere. It's a little higher than where you'd be holding your phone to your head. But we're going to take a reading inside. We're going to go through the exact same process. And once we run the scan, then we'll look at the same towers again, and we'll see how the readings have changed.
And for what we're doing to save on energy costs, but it's going the opposite direction where we're going with technology, which is more and more cell service and satellite technology.
Another thing with new construction is there's typically much higher density with newer apartment complexes. So in the past, things were spread out more, and particularly with the Florida architecture, but now you get into a city environment, denser, higher, taller buildings. And now the signals just can't penetrate the building.
Call the Scheller Group. Trust me, we can help you. I'll bring Dan along and we'll do an analysis of your building, and I think we might be able to come up with a solution that's going to save your residents frustration on not being able to use their cell phone signals, and hopefully, if we do things right, present some sort of life catastrophe from happening with a traumatic life safety event. So thank you very much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.